All right, everyone. So I've done about almost 4,000 kilometers on this car, and I thought now is probably a good time to give an owner's review. Kind of got a feel for this car, took it on some back roads, long trips. It's a pretty fun car. So I guess first thing, let's go over some of the details on this car. So I guess in the front end, it's not like some of the old cars. It actually has like a brushed aluminum finish. So I think that's on the M Performance cars. I do have a partial hood PPF, partial fenders, partial bumper. So I did until here. And then I have the whole headlights as well. I did black out this piece as well as this piece in carbon fiber, the winglet. Added these M stripes here. I did the amber delete. What else? Oh yeah, I did 15% tints expel all the way around. It's my Instagram and YouTube. I did wrap the spoiler in black. I was gonna do it in carbon, but I thought, kind of like the gloss black and white look. I did tint out this rear reverse section. I also tinted out the reverse reflectors. So if you look at the outside, this car is pretty like old school looking, It definitely reminds me of like a E46. And if you look at like all the fit and finish is really good. The only area that I really have a concern with is, so obviously this is like a frameless door, so you have the window coming down. So like you won't get that typical like BMW door thud quality. But in terms of frameless doors, this is definitely the best you're ever gonna get. But that's that sound. It's still way better than all other colors, but just that feel is not good. The other thing I did do is I did a PPF on this section, because a lot of people from the forums, they say that this area kind of rubs on the door, and it's a frameless door. I also wrapped that piece in red. Planning to do some other stuff to the interior. But in terms of the build sheet of this car, it's a 2021 M240i xDrive Alpine white. So it's not the mineral white, which has metallic flakes. It has coral red Dakota leather interior, and it has a premium enhanced package. And if we go look at the trunk room, it's pretty nice as well, to be honest. Typically like all you really want in a car is just to be able to fit like 1 or 2 suitcases, and I think this is more than capable of that. But yeah, like over here you can tell when you close the door, has that nice solid thud, which is what you want in a premium car. Another thing I've noticed is this area. I think typically in all BMWs that I've noticed is like this area is like a lot of buildup of dust, so that's just one thing I gotta be careful of. But yeah, like I guess we can go over each individual sections that I usually go for in my owner's review. Alright, so under the hood, this thing has the B58 with 340 horsepower and 369 pound-foot of torque. So this is not the same engine as the it's not the updated B50 that the Supra and the M340i has. This is basically the version that the F30s and the F32s had. So basically, like I think the main difference between this and the next one is that one, the updated B58 has a larger turbo, and that makes it a bit more lag. It creates a bit more lag. So I think this builds boost a bit earlier. I think the torque figures for both the cars are the same, and also that also has the upgraded high pressure fuel pump, which this car compared to even the N55 is already an upgrade, so I don't think that's like a main concern. But under the engine, like it's pretty tight and compact here. Like, you're fitting a 6-cylinder in like a Miata looking car. It's interesting, there's like some heat sinks here for the lights. I think a lot of BMWs do that. And also, if you notice, the twin hood latch. So compared to like my Volkswagen, which didn't even have a hydraulic lift, and it had like a single latch, this is something that a lot of premium cars are starting to put in, and it's very interesting to see this in this car. But yeah, so now let's go on to the inside. So on the inside of this car, the space and stuff is really good. I think in the back you can kind of fit 2 people, but it's very hard on like long trips. But for what it is right now, I think this is more than what you need. All right, so we'll go over, the first thing is the vehicle generation. So this car is the F22 chassis. So the F22 chassis was there from, I believe, 2014. So for 2014 to 2016, it was called the M235i. So it had the N55 engine. Then from 2017 to 2018, it was an M240i, but that was still the same. It was like the pre-LCI. And then in 2018, they had an LCI where they changed this interior. So they changed some of the trim pieces, they changed the lights, and some of the options, like the way you spec the car, came a bit different. You have wireless car charging and that type of stuff. So this car is a 2021, so I think with the 2020, it's pretty much identical. I was originally looking at a 2020 car as well, trying to get a better discount, but this car just happened to be the only like white on red with the exact specs that I wanted. But yeah, in terms of recalls, so this car, like one advantage compared to like my GLI, you know, this is the last year of this whole model generation. So this is like literally the sweet spot if you want to keep a car, because it has absolutely no recalls. Even the 2020 or 2019, they don't have any recalls or issues because they've already done all the bugs and fixes in the first few years of vehicle production. So this car has no issues at all. You know, the common thing for these B&W inline 6 cylinders are like a fuel pump, water pump. But on the B58, like, it's reliable, it makes more power, it's literally the best of both worlds. In terms of trends, I guess, so in terms of like the 2-door category, like most of the cars like that are in this class are kind of like, they're either 2-door and 2 seats only. This actually has 4 seats, which is good because, like, just in case, you know, you want to have that space, you know, like, and it's also just good to have like that space back there, because I feel like, you know, you can always like throw stuff in the back, right? Versus like in a Supra, like you literally have nothing. The other thing is, in a Supra, what I notice is because its back end is closed off, it feels very claustrophobic, and also the roofline is very low and no sunroof, so which is pretty bad in my opinion, right? Like sunroof, like even if you don't use a sunroof, like just having a sunroof, it makes like so much more, it brings so much more visibility and light to the car. Yeah. All right, so in terms of options to look for and options to avoid, so options to look for, I would say this car, like pretty much standard, it comes with a lot of equipment. The M240i, like I would obviously highly recommend getting like the B58 engine if you can afford it. The 230i's, they're pretty fun, especially the fact that you can get them in manual, because I think that's like one of the few all-wheel drive 4-cylinder cars that you can get, right, other than like a WRX or STI, and there's a 2-door and a BMW. Those are good, but to me, like an original BMW, the classic BMW always has to be with the 6-cylinder. And honestly, the 6-cylinder makes this car, because if you compare to like a Miata or like you know, a bunch of those like little sports cars, this has a 6-cylinder and it's like pretty small. Like look how tiny this car is, right? And the placement of where you're sitting in relation to the car, this car is amazing. So I was originally just looking for like a premium package essential. The premium package enhanced, I think what it has over it is the wireless car charging, the Harman Kardon, which is definitely a good option to get. And I think it has the net in the back of the seat. It has a bunch of other small features. But honestly, like if I had to do it again, I would get like Premium Essential and then try to get the M Performance exhaust. Usually the cars with M Performance exhaust or like the M Performance edition for this generation go for really high prices. But honestly, it's just an exhaust. I'm probably gonna be doing something aftermarket either ways. But I would say M Performance exhaust is something to look for, and also the Premium Package Essential or Premium Package Enhanced. That way, I always say, like, to get a BMW, you should always get it spec'd out fully, because that's when you get to enjoy like all the little stuff, right, of BMW. Because compared to like all these like Japanese and Korean manufacturers, they literally list out like every single features. They're like, oh yeah, like blind spot assist. Like this car like doesn't even have blind spot assist, but it has so many small things that they don't even mention, like wireless Apple CarPlay, right? Not many companies had that in 2017 or 2018, and they don't even mention stuff like that, right? And you know, the digital dash here, the iDrive system is very like underrated. Like it's touchscreen, you have a scroll wheel, you can touch on the scroll wheel. So those are stuff you gotta look out for. Options to avoid. Also, before I go to that, another thing is some of the early gen MT40Is and MT35Is, they actually came with an LSD from the factory. So for us in Canada, you cannot get those from the factory, but you can get it as a dealer option. I believe it's about $2,700 plus install, which I'm guessing is another $500 to $1,000. I don't know, depending. I'm just taking a guess. But I think that's something that I do want to look forward to, that I'm looking forward to get. Just because I had a diff on my GLI and it was so fun. Like it actually makes a huge difference. But I guess with this car, like you kind of make up without not having a diff by having all-wheel drive, so it allows you to rotate around corners much better. But that's something to definitely look into. Options to avoid, I would say, I hate black interiors, especially in BMWs. It just looks, because BMW leather, they have like Dakota leather, or what's the other type? They have Dakota, they have Vernasaka leather. Like all the BMW leathers are very like matte finish, which is really good. I love when manufacturers make matte finish, because that's how it should be, right? And that's what it'll allow it to look good for like a long period of time. Like shiny, like Lexus has like a lot of like shiny leather. That'll like over time fade and it won't look as nice. So with the black, it looks really bad in this car. Like even the black here, I'm already kind of getting bored of it, but the red just makes it so, it just pops, right? Like when someone looks from the front, when looks from the side, and you show anyone that red interior, the red guts, it's really worth it. Also, some of the options that I wish I would have got were the adaptive LED headlights. So this has a regular angel light, which is still pretty good, but the adaptive LED lights, like they allow you to, it looks much better. It's like bigger, and then it also allows you to like block light on the oncoming traffic as well. So that's pretty cool. In terms of maintenance, so that's one of the reasons why most people go for BMWs is they have 4-year maintenance. So 2021 is the last year where you can get 4-year maintenance. After 2021, it'll be 3-year maintenance. So that was like another reason why I was pushing myself to get this car, because basically you get like an extra year of free maintenance, right, which is good. So the maintenance, like it pretty much covers like everything, right, like brake fluid, oil change, and then you also have your regular service warranty, your powertrain warranty as well. I think it's a good feature because instead of, you know, if you compare to like Mercedes or Audi where you have to pay that as like a package, that could be like literally the selling point for some people, right? The fact that you have free maintenance, and like not just free, it's like the fact that you don't have to worry about it is very nice to have. But I think in terms of like if you were to do it on your own, I think it's pretty simple, straightforward to do. You just need like some torque screws. Some of the things that I would say to look out for in BMWs is the steering wheel. I've noticed, like I've detailed a bunch of F30s, and the steering wheel starts to get like really shiny and it looks really crappy. Right now I have it in matte finish, as you guys can see, and that's how it should be, everyone. The seats as well, the matte, when it becomes shiny, is not good either. And in general, like BMWs, what I've noticed on the outside is like the rocker panel is such a shitty design. It just allows like a lot of like dirt and everything just to stick on there, compared to like other cars where, like, you know, they either don't have a rocker panel or they cover it with the door. This is something to look out for. Like that's usually where rust builds up and stuff like that. And the interior, most of the materials are really good except for the center console, which I've seen, you know, that's another thing, right? Like, you know, this interior is pretty similar to the F30, so I've already seen some of the stuff that can go wrong. Some of the stuff that can go wrong is this middle matte finish plastic trim. So what I'm planning to do is wrap it so that I don't avoid damaging it in the future. In terms of insurance, so usually two-door cars are higher insurance, but somehow so the GLI already is super low on insurance. It's probably, that was one of the reasons why I went with the Volkswagen, because it was literally the cheapest insurance. It was cheaper than like Corollas and Civics and stuff. It was pretty matched. It's a nice car. It was pretty matched with the Mazda 3 and Volkswagen, right? Like they have like pretty good insurance rates. This, I guess, is because I'm turning 23 and also some of my tickets are wearing down. I was able to get this car for $50 cheaper than the GLI, which is pretty surprising. I thought, if anything, the best case would be it'd stay the same or go up because it's a two-door. But I guess the fact that it's all-wheel drive and that not a lot of people drive this, and unlike the 3 Series, which is like a very common car, the 3 Series were actually $150 more. So that was one of the turning points for me to avoid this car. So I guess we can talk about the competitors next. So this is one thing that I really struggled with. Like I originally just looked at, you know, a 440i Grand Coupe or an M340i. So I was kind of strict on 4-door. And then when I went to this car, like I bought this car simply just because of the driving feel and performance. And before I made the decision, I was like, okay, like what are the competitors for this car? So I reached out to my good friend, Sam Carlegian. You guys probably watch his YouTube videos. I reached out to him and because, you know, he knows, like, he's doing this, right, as his job. So I asked him, hey, like, what would you compare to an M240i? And he was like, honestly, like nothing. He said, if anything, I would compare it to like a Mustang just because of price and performance, right? We did like a bunch of races with the M2 and the Mustang, and the M240i, like these 2 series will still beating the Mustang, right? Because it has all-wheel drive. So I guess if you look at like all-wheel drive, 2-door, you know, cars, like German cars or any cars in general, the only really cars I would say is like an Audi TT, and this would technically compete with like an Audi in between a TTS and TTRS, which is well $20,000-$30,000 over the budget of this car. If you look at Mercedes, like they don't really have anything like this where it's cheap. I guess you can compare it to like a CLA 45, but that's a 4-cylinder. You can't really make much power, and you know, it just feels like a 4-cylinder, right? And it understeers. Personally, like the cars that I looked at, I told you, was the 448 Grand Coupe, which is too heavy for me. M340i was really good, but the price point was kind of out of whack. The Toyota Supra was definitely a good option, but I got all-wheel drive and you know, red interior and all this stuff for cheaper than that. An M2, the M2 was a good option as well, but the same thing, it was more expensive, and the fact that you can't get red interior and a bunch of other little stuff, like it just kind of ticked me off. In Canada, this car will be my daily driver. It'll be my all-wheel drive daily driver, so I think this will be like a... So one thing I just wanted to talk about was the financing on BMWs. So this is like another really attractive feature about BMW. So this car originally was 0.99%, but because my dad owns a BMW, I was able to get it down to 0.24%, which is basically like free money. And the other advantage of going with BMWs is, you know, their lease rates were so good. It was like 1.99, but they have balloon financing, which is honestly like the best of both worlds. It's kind of like a lease in terms of how much of the money is being interest charged on. So basically I got like a 4-year balloon. So basically what happens is for 4 years you pay about like 50 to 60% of the car's price, and you only pay interest on that portion of it. So basically the other 50%, that's basically like your residual value, which you would consider as your I guess like your lease return rate, you guys can say, and you're not charged interest on that, which is a pretty good option for people like me that, like, you know, I wanna enjoy this car for like a few years, but I don't necessarily want to keep it. I don't know yet. You know, if I do some mods to it, I might keep it, but I think you know, the best plan is, you know, you have a 4-year maintenance, use it 3 years, give it to someone else. They can still enjoy it for like a year with the free maintenance. They still have you know, like they can just buy it off you with the balloon amount or whatever it is. And this is like a good car for anyone. Yeah, good car for that. And I guess in terms of things to look out for in this car, so usually when you, so let's talk about the mods first. So most people, they usually go with MHD or Boot Mod 3 with these B58s. So that's like one of the reasons why people buy B58s, even me too, is to tune these cars, because these cars make stupid power. Like stage 2, you can basically almost get to like 500 horsepower, which is almost like 150 to 200 horsepower more, right? Which is pretty insane to be honest. And the fact that these transmissions hold up, and you can do a bunch of tuning with that as well. So most people, they go with Boot Mod stage 1, Boot Mod 3 stage 1, or stage 2 with a downpipe. They get some type of intake, you know, they usually keep the performance exhaust, or if you want to go stage 2, you got to get the catless downpipes and VRSF. So most of the things people do say is like, you know, stay on top of the maintenance, do it early, don't cheap out. Charge pipes, that's usually something that usually goes up pretty quick on this car. If it's stock, it's okay, but if you modify it even like a little bit, the extra boost you're making, it's just bound to just break. And then I guess the fuel pump, that's something, I guess only if you're really going into like, if you're changing your turbo, or you're, you know, making way over like 500 horsepower, I would probably consider doing that. But other than that, these cars are good. One thing I do want to say is like the tires that you get in this car, you can either get the Run Flat All Seasons, which are square setup, or you can get the summer tires, which are the Michelin Pilot Sports, which come in the staggered form. The car that I test drove was with that, and I kind of regret not getting that again. I did want something all season, but I didn't think these run flats were that bad. It's kind of like a lack of grip, but what that allows you is you can have a lot more fun. Like I can actually slide this car even though it's all-wheel drive, especially in the rain, or even if it's not raining. Like if I just put in traction mode, which makes it like kind of rear biased, this car is super fun. But yeah, let me know if you guys, any other owners of this car, you know, have any similar thoughts, suggestions. What would you kind of compare with this car? And let me know what are, you know, some of the difficulties, some of the challenges, some of the successes you've had with this car. I'll be happy to learn more and discuss.